Yes. Preparing to stream live. Yes. Boom. I think it's
Good.
going. Preparing to stream live. There it goes. Oh, I better mute that baby. I'm gonna be double. Sweet. We're on. Yes. Yeah. Boom. I think it's
Good.
preparing to
Oh, there's
stream
delay again.
live. Oh, wait, I'm double. Oh, I better mute that baby. Hold on. I'm gonna be double. Okay, now we should stop echoing. Too many browser windows open. Hello.
Yo, what's up?
Here we are back after what, 2 weeks?
Oh yeah, around
Uh,
that.
Yeah, yeah.
For the three people that watch this.
Yes. Hi, three people.
You know what? I rewatch it and it's valuable to me, so
Oh,
I'm loving it.
good, good.
Okay, so I didn't really prepare any questions, but
Well, you sent that video with Vishrant.
yeah,
Remember?
well, I didn't understand your response fully. You said I'm around communities of masters or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I put a link in the video for anybody that can watch it. And so basically what Vishrant is doing is he's kind of saying what our teacher Osho always used to say, is that, there's just a total difference in being with a living master or in reading things that dead people have said, right?
Okay.
And there is a total difference because you're kind of going along in the same timeline.
hmm
Right. And you can actually ask questions sometimes.
hmm hmm
And so Vishrant runs basically a commune down in Australia.
hmm
And um, in a way he's kind of promoting his own gig,
hmm
And then in another way he's kind of retelling the same old story, which has truths to it within a certain context. And then as a problem, you look at it from a different context. Does that make sense?
Problems like in
Well,
conventional world kind of
well,
thing.
so yeah, so when I was young, it was like we first started having the East meets West thing because I grew up in a world where everyone was Christian, right?
hmm
Here in the United States, particularly, and in white suburbia, most particularly. And then all the gurus from the East started coming.
hmm
There were just I mean, there was the Hare Krishna movement, and there was
Yeah.
all the yeah, yeah. And Osho was a part of that because he had like 10,000.
Yeah, damn, I just took that in. Oh my God. Yeah, I guess that was a whole era. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so it was this huge East meets West thing, and it was this huge awakening moment for everybody to move out of the Christian paradigm and into a different paradigm.
And
And one
start
of the
following Jesus correctly.
what right, hopefully, right. Well, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and of course, when Jesus was alive, then he was a live guru at the time, right?
Yeah, facts.
Yeah. Um, well, and without Muhammad.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, like following Muhammad correctly would
Yeah.
be the same thing, or I mean, following Buddha correctly.
hmm
But so the thing that I'm trying to bring different. So Vishrant is absolutely correct in
hmm
everything that he said in that paradigm, in the paradigm of a person who's unenlightened trying to become enlightened,
hmm
right?
hmm
And basically at this point, everyone's unenlightened.
hmm
And so either they do something like follow Christianity and just try to be a good person and go to heaven when they die, or they try to become enlightened, and the Sufis are kind of on that same thing. But I think we put it into a broader context though, and we can start seeing the problems with it because humanity evolved to live in a state where everyone knew who they were, or else they wouldn't have been able to survive whatever um, geography they were living in. You know,
Hmm.
they had to live tribally, they had to, and if you read, all the books I've been sharing
Hmm.
really show how they had deep spiritual connections to the entire earth, to each other, who knew who they were. And so you put it in that context, and having one guru doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Imagine if you were living in a community where everyone was awake and a young person was born and they were just treated as a young person because that's what they are. And then they just grew up in this context and then they joined the community as a full adult and then they became an elder. So you're in this constant moving flower of
Yeah. It seems
of
like the native spirituality systems got it right in like so many different ways. If
Well,
you
yeah,
look
well
at it,
they had to because that was the system that existed on the whole earth for what 100,000 years.
yeah.
Or longer if you want to. I mean, all the small evolutions in the human physical mind
Hmm.
happened over 1 million years, right?
Well,
So how
it got me thinking, the perception slash illusion or whatever of separate self, is it merely a result of conditioning?
hmm Yes,
And so there's
100%.
no biological basis for
No,
it.
no, no, not at all. Um, and it's kind of just a mistake of the last few thousand years.
Hmm.
Yeah. But it was it's kind of like a self-fulfilling kind of mistake because once people are broken, and the way the native, wisdom keepers would say it, once they're conquered and domesticated, then they teach their children to be that so that we all live within this context. And so yeah, so Vishrant's right, kind of in the way we live, but it's not enough.
I'm forgetting what he even said. Hold up. What was it?
It was a short, and I don't know.
He said what it takes
When
away.
you find a living master, the living master has your demise in mind. They will take you apart and take you apart and take you apart and put you in a position where you eventually surrender unconditionally. And if they're not doing that, they're probably not doing the right thing because it's only in unconditional surrender that we can find ourselves as truth. When we're really, really, really gone, gone, gone.
Okay, so I remember why I sent it to you now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I sent it to you. I guess I forgot to put my comment, but I was like, "Rip me apart, baby."
Ah, well, I am. But but how? So what Osho did, let's see, I don't know how to, it's always so hard to explain it. So you wake up and you have like this experience, but you're living in a society where everyone's asleep. How do you explain your experience and
Mhm,
share it? What you do is you just become normal. You just
mhm,
become a real human being,
mhm.
which is what Vishrant was calling the truth. You're living in the truth. So how do you communicate with people who are so stuck in their conditionings?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the tendency is to explain what it feels like. And that's what Vishrant does a lot. He kind of comes from his experience. And what I'm trying to do is come from this greater experience of what humanity is at all, your natural birthright. You
Yeah.
know, who are you underneath all those conditionings that's created this illusion of separate self?
Hmm.
So, Osho and Vishrant, um, Osho did it in, which you would almost have to call a very brutal way. He was really direct and he expected everyone to just meditate and get beyond it, you know?
Hmm.
And Vishrant's using that same playbook, and it's effective if you're with a living master. It's not very effective if you're trying to do it by yourself.
So I can't just watch Osho's YouTube videos.
Probably not. Yeah. I mean, all it's going to do is create more ideas of what you think it should
Well,
be.
hurry up and come Canada so I can see you.
I know, I know. Well, but and also me, I'm a little weird because I'm kind of like we're in an emergency situation right now where we really need to do something fast and efficiently. I mean, it's just really important that people wake up. But more than that, we are in this amazing, it's like all these native people are coming out with um, all these new stories and telling us, what they learned from their ancestors and their elders. And then science is starting to dive into the way that everything is interconnected way deeper than has ever happened before. And so we're in this blooming awakening,
Yeah.
and we have to be, because we really, really need to get to the place where every action we take is within the context of how does it all work and interface together,
Mhm.
right? And that it's my contention that interfacing with everything in that way is what our brains were designed for.
Mhm.
That's why we have this big, massive biological thing at
Mhm.
all. Because if we're able to just live in our world, understanding the delicate and intricate ways that everything's interconnected, then we're going to be able to take our societies and everything and turn it into a totally new way to live so that we're not creating enough pollution to kill ourselves,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, so it's um yeah, so I'm just trying to find a new way, and so I'm trying to find a new way to say it
Mhm.
that will more effectively and quickly wake people up. And so
So,
I'm doing that exact same thing, but I'm trying to be trickier.
yeah. Well, you see, so I've always been effective at communicating my ideas through entertainment, whether it be through music or through
Uh-huh.
videos. And man, I'm just like I'm excited for to just like create myself stuff that will benefit others. I
Right.
always I always think entertainment is just the best medium for inspiration in a weird way,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, if even if you think about it, like speakers, I mean, life itself is like, entertainment in itself, right? But it's actually getting something that's stimulating, something that's engaging, right? Like if I'm to think of something like a cartoon, right?
Mm-hmm.
A cartoon that funny little show that implicitly was teaching all of these things, like all the concepts in restoring the kinship worldview, right? If you had like little episodes, just like even just having like a subtle little teaching over there, right?
Yeah.
Um, like again, I'm just thinking like there's this show called Rick and Morty, and it has some of these implicit like teachings of just like weird scientific stuff. And I'm just
Really.
like, oh, this is like such a great way to like just get
Hmm.
just learn things, right? I mean, I don't think it's educational, and I don't think its purpose is that, but it's more of the inspirational aspect that it produces for everyone that's watching. And I
There
think
are
that,
more and more movies coming out that subtly have the new paradigm in it. Like I just watched one, it was like, man, I need to get my website updated. It was like Finding Ohana or something like that. It's a
hmm,
it's a kids movie, and they're in Hawaii, and they go to
yeah,
Hawaii, and then have you seen it? And they end up finding this pirate cave that's full of gold.
it sounds so familiar.
Yeah, and it's really good because it has all the Hawaiian native people. And
Hmm.
so they go and they find this cave just full of treasure. And but one of the Hawaiian traditions is that if someone, they would always bury someone important in a cave. and that
Mm-hmm.
the bones of that person still carried all their power. And so it was important not to disturb anything that was in the cave. And so
Mm-hmm.
they find all this treasure, and then they're like, "Oh, we can't take it because it happened to be a burial cave."
Mm-hmm.
And so they all just put the gold back and just walked away. Very anti-American, right?
And I'm thinking like, for a viewer watching that, I'm sure it can create a lot of inspiration to get interested in this stuff, right? And make people think and reflect.
Mm. You
But
should just start writing stuff and don't worry about if it's correct or right. And
yeah,
definitely don't worry about if the concepts are right, because if the music is right and the rhythm is right and you're kind of going towards this thing, you can literally write yourself
yeah, yeah.
to it.
My ego thing is just like so scared of public and putting things out there still. So I don't know. That
Or
that
of
is
making,
that's
is
something
it
I
of
hold
making a mistake or of getting it right?
both.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it's getting better every day, and I do think soon I will be a lot more careless, and that's a good thing. So
Yeah.
hopefully, I also
When
think
do
like
you
sorry, go on.
when do you graduate?
Uh, so I can do it this term, but it's most likely just gonna happen in the fall of yeah, like the upcoming fall. So like around December is like my last.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's going to be a very powerful time for you because things are going to radically change in your life.
Why is
And
that?
yeah, because all of a sudden you're not going to have the school and you're going to
Okay.
have the degree and you're going to be needing to be looking for a job, right?
Yeah,
And so things are radically going to change. And I mean, basically, it's a moment of growing up.
100%.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a
Which
very
I'm already see like I just always had a love for teaching, right? So
oh,
I think
good.
that is something like I am trying to go into. And I think I kind of already had the idea of doing some kind of after school meditation activity program like here in my basement, right? For like
Mhm.
kids in the local area. And
Yeah,
I'm so down for that. I can't wait.
yeah, yeah,
Like an
yeah.
idea maybe my mom kind of came up with, but
Because you're going
stuff
to
like
be
that is always good.
inventing your own thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, so and then also like in the 60s, when the whole cultural revolution happened, it happened because of music. It was the music that tied everything together, and that's still why when you listen to really good old rock and roll, it all comes from the 60s and early
yeah,
70s, I mean, it was just
yeah,
like so, yeah. Start diving into it, and then you know how it is when you're in an algorithm, you'll start running across really good songs and things that are happening and
yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. So
But
definitely.
you're saying that it's still insufficient for kind of getting that presence of like let's say the content consuming you were talking about consuming the content versus actually being with the content provider, right? So like even just consuming the entertainment and stuff, I think it's just for the inspiring or getting people to think about it, those initial stages. But
Yeah.
I'm
But
more curious
don't worry
what
about it too much because you can't get it right, you
yeah, I
know.
mean
Yeah.
that
Like Vishrant can't just get it right. Everybody going to him isn't just boom becoming
yeah,
enlightened.
yeah.
I can't get it right.
Well,
You
I
know,
mean, right is just an abstract thing anyways.
Well, right is like imagine every single person that I talk to waking up. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I want to happen.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong, I don't think, with impossible goals. Someone in the future can judge me. Someone right now can judge me. People do
Mm,
it all the time. But, as far as I'm concerned, anything less than that um, isn't enough
hmm. Well, I
because
think,
everybody's already awake. So it's kind of like
yeah,
just you know,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Which
but
again, I think is totally possible. I mean, a lot of
totally
people.
possible.
I
Yeah.
remember. I just remember this. We have a lot of like Indian students, foreign Indian students at my school. And one of the guys that actually showed me Krishnamurti, right? Uh, the three of us were sitting together, and I was talking to his friend who was also an Indian student. And I was like, "Oh yeah, you've heard about non-duality and Osho or whatever, right?" It's talking about, and he's like, "Brother, you can't be talking about this stuff. This stuff is very ancient, right? Like no one's gonna understand you, like what you're trying to like." And I'm just like, I don't know about that. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, just even getting the like he seemed interested, right?
Yeah. But
So,
see, Hinduism is not ancient. Hinduism is very new.
mhm,
You are an evolutionary psychology student, right?
mhm,
And so Hinduism, I mean, what, 4,000 years, maybe nine? That's
mhm.
nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
That's nothing. That's not ancient.
Yes.
Right. That's very, very new. The only thing about Hinduism is that area over there was the very first place on the planet to get conquered by the divided mind.
Yeah.
So those guys have been dealing with it longer, right? But they've totally failed.
Yeah, 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 I know.
If they had succeeded, they would be living in a awakened society instead of living in this totally divided society that has gurus,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Well,
So
they
that's not ancient.
I think, they have so much damn scripture. I think what he was
Mm,
meaning by ancient is like 4,000, 9,000 years old, right? Which again, still, I think people are really just thinking about like, humans like us kind of
yeah,
ancient,
uh,
right? It, when scripture became a thing and stuff, right?
right.
So, but I don't like when I think of the old Vedic stuff, and I'm like just interested, like, where did these concepts like chakras and stuff even come from, right? Like, and I don't know, it's still very extremely conceptual when you're just looking at it like that.
Let's see. Oh. Yeah, so why do they have it at all?
Hmm.
Um, Personally, I think all religions of any kind are just strategies to keep people asleep.
Hmm.
This is one of the things that Osho always said too. So well, and a lot of my rebellion comes from him because
Hmm.
he was a Jain. He lived in India. He grew up in India. So he was surrounded by, the guru culture, right?
Hmm.
And he just constantly said the whole thing is sick and corrupt, and it's just about keeping people asleep and keeping them slaves so
Hmm.
that they don't rebel and they keep working for the rich people.
Yeah.
So, so what's all this stuff about chakras? So just kind of think about it. Okay, so there you are, you're kind of miserable, you're wishing that you can be enlightened, because you've heard about enlightenment. And so you start just working on your chakras. I know people who have been working on their chakras for 60 years.
Hmm. I mean, I still don't even know what it is.
Well,
Like,
neither do they, but they've just used it to distract themselves. I mean, it's like literally a drug just to keep you from actually what's truth.
well, I mean, yeah. So like there was a like that whole Dr. K guy. I don't know if I was talking to you. Like there's a psychiatrist that also was training in India to become a monk that's posting
Yeah.
YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Anyways, he's been doing a lot of like transcendental meditation content,
Yes.
right?
Uh-huh.
And it sounds really interesting, right?
Yeah.
But I mean obviously like I haven't really gone there, right? And I don't even know this stuff conceptually, right? Is it worth engaging in? I don't know, right? But
Yeah. Yeah. The thing about transcendental kind of meditation things and Hindu chanting and all that, kirtan, is that what you do is so your brain is upset and uncomfortable. You're having a hard time living with your thoughts because thoughts suck. You know? And so what you do is you, instead of having your thoughts, you replace that with this chanting mantra, but you're
Hmm.
still stuck in your mind. All you've done is just replaced one set of noise with another set of noise. You're just as far from waking up as you were when you started. But you
Hmm.
can trance yourself away for an entire lifetime, you know, and then meanwhile the status quo just keeps going on and going on and going on.
Hmm.
So, you know, and our society just keeps becoming more and more separate and more consumer based.
Hmm.
You know, so I think instead we do, if you want to replace something in your mind, which you kind of have to do, it would be better to replace it with just constant studying and ideas of how united we are, just how interconnected everything is.
Which has been so helpful for me. Like
Yeah.
personally, like, I love Krishnamurti's usage of the word fragmentation, right? And I
Yeah.
was just reflecting on that more and more. And it's like, oh yeah, thoughts are just fragments. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
am just, when I think of me as this, like just this, that is a fragment. So I was just reflecting on the usage, his usage of that word. And again, like you were saying, it's just extremely insightful. And I think, it's a thinking of the ways we are connected. Just thinking that, right? If you want to put thought to use, right? You
Yes.
can do that. You
Yeah,
can
like
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 there.
think about birds. How does a bird fly all the way from Canada to South America and then go down and do whatever it
Yeah.
does, and then at the exact right time jump up with everybody else and fly back? They've got these little teeny tiny brains, right? But
Mhm.
somehow or another, they are so connected with the entire earth and the rotation of the earth and how the jet stream goes and the air that they're able to just and just fly in the right direction without thought,
Mhm.
right? So their brain is biologically created out of the exact same stuff your brain's created out of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, imagine living inside the earth, inside the food system, where your
Mhm.
food doesn't just come from a grocery store. You're working with a group of people and you got to constantly go out and find out, you know, follow this migration down here or go over here where the berries are, or, you know, like, how do you know it's not written in some ancient scroll?
Yeah.
It, yeah, right?
You said in a recent video that I found so cool. You were, you know, the natives had this understanding that we live in the world, not really on it, right? Where like
Exactly.
now we really our default in the West is like, we live on the world, right?
Right.
Like this is the place I'm on.
And we consume it.
Yeah. And in the consumption of it and these resources, mine and all that, it's like,
Right. Right. It's so deeply embedded in us. And that we're individuals. Each of us is doing that all by ourselves.
mhm,
You know, like I need some mine, you know, is a very
mhm,
me thing. And we never think we.
mhm,
You know, so how do you know, and that's fragmentation. That's the perfect word to describe, you know, the divided self because it's your fragments that feel separate. Otherwise than that, your actual understanding, your actual self just naturally feels connected. I mean, you must have lots of times where, you know, it's a beautiful sunset or you know, you or maybe even just looking at a beautiful painting or listening to a beautiful piece of music and you just kind of go and just enjoy the beauty of it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so
you see, that's the thing. I've like see, I don't know what is the state, what isn't the state, but like it really does feel that I enter this intimacy of the present moment, and there is uh I really there is no self that there is to be found other than experience itself, right? And I've definitely had those, but from my own personal experience, I guess this is where meditation may come as important. See, what happens is like a thought can almost intrude and interfere with that state, and I slip with that thought. So, for example, it's like, oh, this is like intense, right?
Right.
So I remember you were last time I mentioned this, you said, uh, well, Vishwan, the first time he experienced it, he was scared as hell, but he just
Yes.
into it.
Yeah.
The thing with me, like I slip from the thought and I also like retract, but it seems to I seem to engage and sustain the state longer each time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's
But
the fragment that's afraid, and it's the fragment that's slipping. So
yeah,
who's watching the slipping happening? That's you.
exactly, right. And I guess it's just holding that. Like it's I guess just it's weird. I still don't know how to exactly describe it.
Yeah,
It's
nobody
just
does. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's undescribable. But so imagine all those fragments, right, around your head. So what a lot of the Eastern traditions want you to do is reach a place where all the fragments have melted away, and
mhm.
then all that's left is just you,
Yeah.
right? That just seems a little uh, unrealistic to me.
Okay.
Too long of a journey.
Really? Well, you know
So
what's
I
interesting?
I say
Or-
instead, all the fragments are happening, and
Yeah,
you are still there watching these fragments.
yeah,
And just, it's just like, oh, fear, haha, oh, thought, who cares?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but who are you locating yourself?
interestingly enough, though, you had a Think Zero series.
Yes.
Remember that? And I mean, I am not, I really don't do meditation other than just like contemplation, really.
Yeah.
But, after watching that Think Zero series, I remember lying down and I was able to, and I
Yes.
saw it. Like, I really did, right? Like, I mean, there's like zero and it was there, right? So, I don't know how, I mean, it's different for every single person, right? Me doing it again was tougher, extremely tougher, doing zero again, because now I have expectations,
Yes.
right? But I mean, I still think it is still one path that is possible. If it's way more simple than the mind may think. Like it's actually very, and it's even probably the complexity that I think it actually is that's stopping me away from actually be, being and seeing zero.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just because it doesn't happen exactly the same the second time doesn't mean the second time isn't just as valuable,
Mhm.
right? Because ultimately you're just trying to, if there's just zero, all the fragments are gone, what's left? It's just me
Mm-hmm.
seeing the zero.
Mm-hmm.
And some little
Yeah.
thing is going to happen that's going to just make that just go, oh, well, of course,
Yeah.
obvious. I mean,
Yes.
it's just like you're working on a math problem or something, you can't figure it out. Or music, you play guitar, right? So
Mhm.
it's like, this hard um, progression, I can't get it, I can't get it. And then all of a sudden, oh, that's because it needs an F sharp. Ah,
Mhm.
and boom, it just fits in there.
Yes.
So yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like you slip into yourself. Think of it more this way. Each human being is already naturally awake, and
Mm-hmm.
our society has to work constantly to keep you from seeing that
Mm-hmm.
because seeing it is so immediate and obvious. So,
Mm-hmm.
slipping into it accidentally that way. And that's kind of what happened to Vishrant too. He saw it and he's like, well, that can't be it. But, phew, He stepped
Yeah.
into it. Oh, I'm me.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I know. So the storytelling that arises maybe after during the experience or whatever intrudes, there's like an interpretation, some kind of false story, some kind of fragment that arises, and it's just like,
Yeah,
uh,
but you're looking for a way to describe it too. And what if you just happen to find the description nobody else has been able to find that works? So,
yeah,
you know, you know,
yeah. I
I
mean,
the
sorry.
more people that you hang out with, you're going to notice that something really different is happening. People are really, really looking to become real human beings,
Yeah.
right?
Well, what's different about that though? Weren't we always?
No, because for a really long time, it's just been so comfortable to just be a human being, particularly if you are like a wealthy human being or even a semi-wealthy human being. I mean, golly, you know, you
Mhm.
get up, you go to work, you watch TV, you have a beer, if you need something, you buy it. You're always comfortable in your house. There's not really a real incentive.
Really? That's so crazy. I really thought like a life like that was impossible. I always thought people are in this like constant uh cycle of just dissatisfaction because like regardless like eventually it gets mundane and then you need more and then it's just like dissatisfied, right? So I've always thought that cycle was always going on.
Yeah, but they can always get more. I mean, we live in a
Yeah.
world, yeah, we
Okay.
live in a world where it's like, oh, I'm unhappy. Oh, here, try ecstasy,
Yeah.
right? Or, oh, I'm unhappy, buy a new dress.
Hmm.
Or, oh, I'm unhappy. Get rid of your girlfriend. Go get a new one for a while. You're happy. And so we live in, I mean, we're just such consumers. And as long as you just keep thinking that the next thing is going to make you happy, you're like, just chasing after treats.
Yeah, well, it goes back to what you were saying. The society is working hard to keep us that way too, right? Because it
Society,
really is fundamentally based off consumerism, right? I
yes,
mean,
yeah,
any
yeah.
capitalistic system
And
will be.
separation and those fragments and everything,
Yeah,
and based on untruth. But I
yeah,
think you are right that almost everybody is kind of going, something seems a little off. I'm not sure what, you know? Then the little shiny thing appears in front of their eyes and off they go. Like follow a guru. Oh, or
yeah.
some ecstasy, or read another book. Like I love it when I walk into spiritual people's houses. I mean, like a million books, every book possible on their bookshelf. And I'm like, well, that hasn't worked for you, has it?
I like that.
And so what do? I go write a book.
Yeah, yeah. Write a book about that, about how everyone has books. That's good.
Back in the 60s, there was this guy, Andy Warhol, who wrote this book, and the title of it was Steal This Book,
Nice. I
because
like
he
it.
was against consumerism, right?
I love it.
So he didn't
Steal
want
it.
to make
Yes, yes.
$1 million
Oh,
off.
that's so good.
Imagine a book sitting on the bookshelf that says
Yeah,
"Steal the book." Only
I
everybody
love it.
went and bought it.
I love it.
Right, right, right. So,
There was someone else I wanted to mention. Okay, can we talk about the state and getting whatever into that state?
what do you mean?
Non-dual state or whatever.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So like
Great.
is it something that you yourself can tap into just like that or something? Like
Oh, it's
in
never gone. I'm always me. It's not like
okay.
I have to tap into it or try, right?
Okay. So yeah, it's just the experience just always is. It's not something that in meditation.
No, meditation is exactly the same. I sit down and meditate for 8 hours, and I'm exactly the same at the end as I was when I started and all the way through, except that my back hurts and my feet hurt.
Okay. It's for some reason, I don't know, that triggered something in me.
But
Yeah, I don't know, it just triggered something.
because you are the same too. Think
Yeah, I
about
know that's
when
why
you
it triggered it. I was like,
sit down to meditate, and all the way through the whole meditation, and then at the end of the meditation, you're still you.
yeah, holy shit, breakthrough. At least it feels that way. I don't know. That's
Right?
weird. Yeah, that was see, I can get like really intimate because again, yeah, I just remembered a bunch of the questions that I kind of had ready. It was something to do with the present moment stuff,
Yeah,
which I think also has to do with, I mean, non-dual state, which is, yeah, I mean, it's just so intertwined because the only thing that is real is the present moment, right?
right.
Um, and you're in it. You can't really be anywhere else. So,
Exactly.
from your experience, how what do you think the value of present moment teachings has?
I think present moment teachings really confuse people. So I would never, never even speak about that because present moment assumes time. It assumes a past and it assumes a now and it assumes a future. And it's like trying to stay in a moment that's kind of unchanging, but everything's always changing and moving. So I think take time out of it, and instead of trying to be here now, you be here now. Locate yourself physically right where you're at,
Yeah,
because
one of
then
the
you're in the present moment.
well, it was valuable when you said it wasn't a recorded conversation, but you told me you're still thinking of present moment as like time, but think of it more as a place, right?
Yes.
Like you're here and works so much more powerfully. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's exactly the same. Okay, you're sitting there and I'm sitting here, right?
Hmm.
Okay, try to get out of gravity right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
Can't do it, right? We're hooked to the earth right where we are. So we're
Hmm.
always located somewhere.
Hmm.
And you always have your body, you're always in it. And there's no part of your body that isn't completely separate from everything else.
Hmm.
I mean, you wouldn't have the body you had right now if you hadn't eaten food every day of your life. And all that food came from somewhere. And if you hadn't drank water and if you hadn't breathed air, right?
Hmm.
So there's literally nothing about you that is a fragment.
Hmm.
And there's nothing about you that's not a fragment from your actual location where you are.
Hmm.
And I've decided a better way to say than become enlightened, it's better to say we're trying to locate ourselves.
Hmm.
Because
It's
that
locating ourselves.
locate, yeah,
And so I mean, just to try to uh, have an answer for it, even though it's more about the questioning. In my experience, it's been more valuable focusing on the questioning than just like giving the answer, right?
yeah.
Uh, but maybe would it make sense that, the answer for the location of self is kind of everywhere and nowhere?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so I think would it make sense to say instead of zero, there's only like one thing?
It totally would. Yeah.
Okay. Like it's nothing because that something you're referring to is a fragment, right? When there are no fragments and it's only one thing. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
well, exactly. Yeah. The only reason non-duality says non-duality is because it's so easy for religions to start then teaching this one thing. And then you're
Hmm.
looking for this one thing outside of yourself and you've turned
Yes, yes.
fragment. But once you realize that, oh, one thing, this includes me, I'm inside of
This
it.
includes, yes,
Right.
yes,
I'm located, you know,
yes.
here. Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
And if you actually go deeper into non-dual teachings, they start out saying not to, not to, not to, not to. I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. But
Mhm.
then the the higher teachings of it, after you've been a monk for
You
20,
are that. You are that.
yeah, you are that, you are that, you are that, you are
Yeah.
that. The thoughts happen. Well, you are your
Yes.
thoughts.
Yes, you are. Yes.
Emotion happens. You are your emotion.
Yes. You
Yeah,
are even the fragments, right? Because the fragments aren't separate from the whole, which
you
makes
are.
so much sense, right? And even oddly enough, like, contemplation on this stuff has also triggered, right? Like seeings, right? Where I'm just like, oh, okay, makes
Yeah.
complete sense. But again, I guess I'm just still having problems with sustaining that. I think, and again, I think it just goes back to believing in these fragments that arise, right?
Yeah, there's nothing to sustain because, okay, think of it this way. Let's say this morning you had a moment, okay? And then let's say 10 minutes ago you had a moment. Okay, nothing really changed between those moments. That was you having the moment, and then you between all then and now having the moment. So you're there, and it's just kind of like what's the difference between that moment and
No, I don't know why. I guess so. For some reason, I know in some videos you say it's completely ordinary and very normal. It feels intense sometimes. It
yeah,
really does feel like a quote unquote mystical experience. And
yes,
that feeling is to some degree aversive. I don't know.
you've been taught not to trust yourself your entire life. And one of the main reasons you don't trust yourself is because since you were a little child, you've discovered that everyone you know is either slightly or hugely untrustworthy. So you kind of have to hold yourself back. So imagine being
Yeah.
raised,
Wow, that's fucking crazy. That's really all it is. I don't
right?
want to trust myself, right? Because like I mean, so like that's just it really is. So again, maybe that has to do with I remember we are talking about the concerns of hell, right? Where it's just like, oh
Yes.
God, the last thing you want to do if you want
Yeah.
to go to hell is to trust yourself, right? You have to
Right.
trust God, right? So it's
Yeah.
very interesting. Like maybe that's still there to some degree, where it's like on an unconscious level. A part of me is,
Well, think about a totally trustworthy person who um, doesn't lie and pretend. That would be a very dangerous person.
yeah, this is pretty powerful for me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So what would it take to totally trust yourself? And years
It's
ago,
very, I don't know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you would have to trust yourself enough to realize that you can survive every mistake you make.
I don't think it's so much about the mistakes and behaviors I can make, but more about is trusting myself trustworthy,
Right? Yeah.
right? And it's just like more philosophical and thought. I don't, but then again, like I don't know. But it's giving me some good things to reflect on and think, like, see,
Yeah.
be mindful of. Because I mean,
Yeah.
I think you did help me crack something, a big thing holding me back.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I
Um,
believe it. I trust you.
yeah, I mean, another good question then is like, well, who am I really trusting at the end of it? What am I trusting? What is it that, is it just another thought? Is
No.
it
Who is trusting?
exactly who is
You're
trusting
not
who?
trusting yourself, right?
Exactly.
Now all of a sudden you've got two things.
Exactly.
So you don't trust yourself, you trust yourself, just like you locate yourself.
Oh, you know what's so crazy? It's because um if there's a, you know how one of the videos was it's irreversible, which I do think is like I think the best way of putting anything of truth is once we recognize the ditch, we kind of just stop going down the ditch, right? Once
Right,
we know the ditch, which is like, yeah, like I mean, to some extent, there are many things that are just irreversible, undeniable, right? And I think you know, at least for me, I think during those moments, there's this feeling of undeniability, and I don't know how much another part of my mind likes that, right?
right, right.
And that's something to work with.
And we don't have a lot of examples of it to follow. So one of the things that I did, so I was a sannyas and I was living in Idaho, and I never ever got to India where Osho was. But he said one time that there are enlightened people everywhere. You just don't notice them because most of them just kind of live their lives and don't choose to do anything because it's like so impossible to talk about. And so I took that as I'm like, okay, I believed what he said. And so I just started assuming that everyone I met was enlightened until they proved to me that they weren't, right?
Hmm.
And so I just created examples of enlightened people all around me. And you'll kind of notice that if you do that, you'll find that especially people that you don't know really well, it's really easy to just see their actual divine self, you know, and just kind of stand next to that and watch that and follow that. And then you kind of start trusting people more.
So even if they kind of follow systems that kind of teach fragmentations, there's still a sense of someone still being awake even through that.
Well, so all the people that I decided were enlightened, I just made no judgments about,
Okay.
right? So whatever they did was fine. So there was this one lady, I still think she's enlightened. She was so funny. And she's just one of these people that just made jokes about everything. And she worked at this church daycare. So she was very, very Christian. And she was building her house, and she was the treasurer of the church. And she needed a little extra money. So she took some of the money out of the church and used it to buy the things she was going to buy, and then she was going to pay it back. Unfortunately, she got caught before she could pay it back. And so instead of me going, oh, well, now she's not enlightened, instead I was like, oh, okay, so enlightened people can embezzle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it.
Right? So it's like I just changed my bar of what I thought it
Love it.
was. Yeah. So yeah, everyone, I just stopped making those judgments about people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a lot more fun to live around people that way.
Mhm. Do,
Because
do you
why
want?
not? You know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so regardless, I think I'm always gonna see my mom as enlightened.
Yeah, there you go.
Like it's even times where I'm just like trying to explain things for myself to her. She's like, yeah, yeah, obviously. I mean, I don't know how to see separation. Like the other day, she was just saying, I don't know how to see separation.
Yeah, yeah. She just hasn't gotten as addicted to her fragments as other people have gotten.
Like at all, which is so interesting to me. Like I'm
Yeah,
just like again, what we were saying at the beginning, like, wow, this stuff really is a result of conditioning of like kind of just teachings that we just bought in that are just there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it feels really deep and solid.
Yeah, but they're just projections. Like simply they're projections.
Right, right, right. And stepping beyond them is very relaxing.
Yeah.
you know, because really it's the thing that's just constantly creating anxieties um and fears and things like, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
who am I?
I would
Yes,
just take
just trying
storage.
to locate yourself.
Yeah. You want to give me a 5 minute thing, meditation thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I like the one you did. You're just like, okay, close your eyes and think of a ball. Who's looking? Hey,
Yeah,
you
yeah, and
want to
then
give me
take
like,
the ball away and take the
yeah.
ball away. Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to give me a simple one like that?
That's a good one. You know, all the latest videos I've been doing really are kind of just little meditations like that.
Cool.
But yeah, no, if I give you something, it's just gonna, first of all, I can't think of anything except a giraffe.
Uh-huh. I like giraffes.
Yeah, try to find a giraffe in your mind. And then second of all, it'll just kind of turn into something. So when you invent something and then tell me what you do.
All right, I got you.
Yeah, yeah, and write a song.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you want me to write it about? Tell me. I'll have it done in an hour.
in an hour, in an hour. A song about seeing zero.
Okay, I'll have the ending silence.
Yeah, it'll just kind of
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I got you. Well, what
Okay,
genre? What genre?
genre, I don't know. You figure it out.
All right, I got you.
Yeah, 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 because music's good.
Yeah.
Music's all in a pattern, and then it's all
Hmm.
about vibration.
Hmm.
And the words kind of really aren't that important.
Yeah. I mean, I was taught be careful about the music with the music you listen to
Yeah,
because
because it can uh subconsciously, how come I can't think of the word?
program teach.
Program you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because like I mean I have my fair share of rap, like my enjoyment of that stuff, right? Where it
Mm,
can be lyrics can be vulgar, right, and stuff.
yeah.
And so I was always told be careful with that music.
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, I
Yeah,
was told that rock and roll would
rock and roll,
yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
but it's
Would
really hard because it's the sounds are just so uplifting, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I can understand both sides.
yeah. And put some words in the song that don't mean anything at all.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
there
uh-huh.
we go. I've been doing that since I was a kid though, so it's nothing
Yeah,
new.
there you
That's
go.
actually how I write all my songs.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah, I don't speak English because I focus on the melody first anyways.
Yeah, yeah,
And then if I'm concentrated enough and I care enough about it, then I put lyrics. But sometimes, but I it always sounds better just mumble
yeah.
anyways.
Well, do a whole mumble song.
Oh my God, you know what? I'm just gonna be so like there's an actual like new genre called mumble rap, but like it's
Really?
just them like right, just like more slow and stuff.
Right?
But none of them actually like full out mumble. And maybe
Uh,
I'll make it something that everyone can start doing.
well, they used to call it scat.
Scat, I remember that. Yes, you're
Right?
right.
Yeah.
We need to bring that back.
Bring back the scat. Yeah. There is actually a very deep Jewish spiritual practice called Nagun. And
Hmm.
what it is, it's song and singing praise, and none of the words mean anything. And the reason is because once you start defining something, you limit it. And so
Yeah,
if you're going to praise God, you should use words that don't mean anything at all,
I
or
love
else
it.
you're limiting it.
I love it.
It's a Nagun. Yeah.
It kind of I took an interest in Osho's dynamic meditation.
Yeah, uh-huh.
A part of that is just kind of just going crazy and just
Did you
really
do it?
and I did part of it, some of it, but I didn't spend like
The whole
even
15
longer than
minutes. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't do all
Yeah.
that. Not
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah, because you're just jumping and going, who,
Yeah. So yeah,
It's your
and that's
brain.
interesting because just recently, like maybe just even the past like 2 weeks, I actually I didn't really consume Osho that much, like at all.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm starting to become a fan more and more. Yeah.
He really nails it a lot.
Yeah, it's also just like has that entertaining quality as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Uh-huh.
it's never hit me until now. So it's cool.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we should go.
Okie dokes. Thank you, Zareen.
Well, we will plan another one. Maybe when I'm a little less tired. I've been
Hell yeah.
running around like crazy, man.
We'll get Sky on here too if she's available.
Yeah, yeah. She'll be back when she gets back into good internet, which is
Cool.
gonna be a week or two. So, okay. Alrighty. I'm gonna click my button.
Bye.
Bye.